All right, welcome back, ladies and gentle jammers, to the Chupacabra's lair. I'm your host, Larry, and we're back for some more delectable Ludum Dare number 38 games, the theme of which was a small world, and we have a trifecta of games that hopefully reflects that flavor-saving description that I just gave to the eyes and ears of the loving audience out there. And to start us out here today, or this afternoon, depending on where you live, we have Bureaucratic Deity Simulator 2018. I actually thought originally when I glanced at the title for this game that it was actually Bureaucratic Dating Simulator. And I was kind of like, you know what, I could do this. I could date a lady that's really into running the numbers and making sure the company is running at peak efficiency. But no, it is actually similar yet different. We are a bureaucrat who is tasked with taking care of the worldly domain of creation for various different gods. And this one is made by Mason, Douglas, Mooselook, and Growlins. This is a jam entry. And let's dive in here and have a look. So the idea here is each one of these levels is comprised of a bunch of tiles and a bunch of little slots that you can place those tiles into in order to create different combinations of terrain that make a world with varying geography. However, the god that ordered this particular planet wants it when they ordered it off of Amazon. So in this case, we need to create a little river running through the lowlands, and this is where the game sort of starts to use some basic logic and knowledge about how terrain is formed all around the world and how that interplays together in order to create different topographies, not typographies. One involves land, one involves fonts. So the idea here is that we want to create a stream, and streams come from springs that start way up in the mountains, and eventually they form great and mighty rivers. So in order to do that, we have to slot in our little meadow here with what I assume is just a really low-res sheep in the background, and then we slap a mountain down next to it, and that converts that tile into a stream. It kind of reminds me a lot of back when I was a kid playing Magic with my sister and her friends. Like, that was the only experience with Magic I ever had. It reminds me a lot of how you had to mix and match a lot of the resource cards in order to do special things with the special abilities of all the different monsters inside of that game. So this one says, for this simple world, we need to erode mountains until we only have water. Placing water next to many things will bring them closer to water. So this is the thing that explains how erosion works in this game. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to mush down a mountain until it becomes a bit of a beach. So we just slap this ocean around until that one becomes an ocean, and now we have a lot of beachfront property. I'm guessing this is one of the Malibu gods that just want to hang out with their girlfriends and show them the awesome ocean life that they've created on their planet. So here we go. For this simple world, we want all water. Some tiles react differently to others, though. Some don't react at all. Remember, there's a reset button if you get stuck. So we want everything to become water. So to do that, we'll start here. Uh-oh, how do we get this thing to react? I think I jacked this up. So this is one of those lovely levels that I always like it when people do in their game design, is that it's nice to kind of hold people's hands with tutorials to a certain extent, but I really like it when people do like a little bit of trial by fire, where they just kind of throw a problem at me with the basic logic that I've been given and assume that I can probably figure it out like a big boy. So this grasslands tile doesn't react to the ocean. The ocean and the grasslands are at odds with each other, and they're just not talking. Ever since the ocean stole the grassland's girlfriend, it's just been weird. So what we do is we soften up the grasslands with a nice ocean, or not an ocean, but a river or a stream, thanks to the mountain, and then we can convert that into an ocean, and you kind of get a cascade effect as you start to place these tiles next to each other. And now we have all water. Now, the one thing that I've had issue with is some of these it's kind of hard to tell what's going on when they throw more types of tiles at you than you're necessarily prepared for. And I think I might inadvertently create that with this level. So this says bogged down. So we want to create all swamp. All of them need to look like this tile right here. Is this say swamp to you? I think one of the only issues I have with the pixel art of this game is there's a lot of dead space in the background I feel like you could do more interesting stuff with. But the other thing is some of these tiles, with how grainy that they look, with this kind of, I'm not sure if it counts as 16-bit or 8-bit artwork, but it's really hard to tell what exactly this is. Like, this just looks like a bunch of weird piles of trees. This could be the underworld as far as I know. I'm not really sure. Like, I wasn't really introduced to what a swamp is. It's like you could put off to the side like a key that tells you what each tile is in case you forgot and you haven't played a game like this in a while yourself. So we need to make everything a bog. So how do I create a bog? Well, this thing doesn't react when I put it near anything. Oh, so when I put a bog next to a plain, it creates a bog. So let's see, if I put this one here, uh-oh. Okay, I've created way too much river. So how do I turn this into something that I can convert into a bog? Do I put it next to this? No. What if I put the river, or the swamp next to the river? No? Nothing. Okay. Got it. So what if I put this next to here? So that creates a river. But now I'm stuck with a bunch of rivers. So how do I... Oh, a river and a river makes a bog. But a river and a bog makes a river. I see. So sometimes you just kind of figure this out by trial and error. And to a certain extent, I kind of like this game. On the other hand, I feel as though there's just a small smidgen of a component missing. Like, maybe it's the reason we're creating these planets. Maybe after we've created a planet, it transforms and becomes something in the background and goes off into the pantheon. Maybe it's little smidgens of story slipped in between the different levels, but I just feel like there's one component missing between the puzzles and the different mechanics that this game would need to kind of jump out at me and become like a really immersive game that I'm really tempted to play with more. Like, maybe instead of just being a bureaucrat, maybe I'm warring against evil gods, and creating these planets and repairing these planets is how I defeat them. And then occasionally you have a mini game where you have to fight them off. But as it stands right now, like, I don't mind this game. It's kind of clever, where you have to mix and match what you're doing with these different tiles in order to get things to react. And at the same time, I just kind of feel like I'm missing out on something. Like, I play through it, I just wish there was a little bit more of that magic to it. And I mean literally. But I don't know. There could be another direction you folks were trying to go to, and I hope that you pursue that. So, graphics are nice. Not a crazy load of sounds. I wouldn't mind some more ambient music to kind of relax to as I solve these puzzles. And then beyond that, like, I like the art, and I'm guessing the small world concept is just that to a god creature, every world is a bit of a small world. So, nice job. It's just missing like a little something that I'm not quite sure what to put my finger on to suggest to kind of just make it pop. All right, so next up on our cavalcade of torment, we have Rashlander, which is a compo entry, and it's made by Guy Davis. This is actually a gentleman that I've run into before. He is the creator of Adventure Lamp. It's a fun little game where you play as a disembodied hopping head creature that uses his spelunking adventure lamp in order to solve different puzzles, kill different enemies, and try not to explode as he plumbs the depths for treasure. Rashlander, on the other hand, is a torment machine, where we are playing as a cute little jet or a rocket, and we're trying to get to a little spot over here and then land on like a landing pad, hopefully without exploding too much. And it's a game that is intentionally designed to be very difficult. It's randomly generated, which is typically the type of game that I'm always a fan of, but it's a little bit difficult to play. Mostly because the controls feel a little bit slidey, And it's super easy because every one of these objects has their own gravity to crash into stuff. And you have a very limited fuel supply to try and get places. And that's really just the name of the game. You're trying to get to that yellow platform there and land in order to get to the next zone. And if you crash into just about anything, or even if you land on something you're not supposed to for too long, you will literally explode. And whether or not I do very well at this game is typically just a matter of the luck of the draw. I've only managed to land on the platform one time, and boy, it was not intentional. Like, it was completely by accident. But I like this type of a game. This reminds me a lot of the Flash games I used to play as a kid, where you had, like, the cat cannon on Newgrounds, where you launched a cat, and, like, the physics that were very basic, but kind of wibbly-wobbly wild would just kind of go nuts in every direction and torment you. And I like that. I think the only thing about this game that I don't specifically like is just how floaty the controls are. I feel like it should be easier to precision maneuver your craft around in this game without exploding. I also feel like the further you go, that's when fuel should become more of an issue as you get deeper into this game. Because the difficulty in this game is going to be controlling the outrageous velocity of our little rocket and prevent it from exploding as it impacts things. Because we're like a planetary explorer almost. And then if you kind of made it so that as you played this game longer and kind of figured things out, you could even do something. This is what I mean. Like, I'm getting way, way, way away from my objective. But I feel like you can make it so that as you played through a game like this, you got more and more interesting environments and worlds that you could explore to kind of reward you for actually reaching that destination. Maybe you could even go and explore alien planets. I'm not entirely certain. And I guess technically this fits the deal, because we're like in a tiny little universe full of tiny little planets with their own little tiny gravity. And there's not a ton to say about the graphics. Like, the graphics are purposefully simple because this is like an old school arcade game that is just trying to be super brutal and super difficult. But I think a lot of my difficulty is simply the fact that I have one heck of a time precision maneuvering when I finally do get close enough to this landing pad. So I think if you just kind of clean the controls up just a smidgen, that would be all most folks would need in order for this to work out well. Then maybe throw in some cool sci-fi background music, and I think you'd be golden. I don't really know what else to say about this game. Maybe you could unlock different ships that behave differently if you wanted to make this into like an Android game. Because you could very easily use an accelerometer for this game, I feel like, and do all sorts of crazy stuff. Although, I'll be honest, when I was playing this earlier, I had a lot of fun just kind of zipping around like this. And I think you could totally put a sandbox mode into a game like this where you can just zip around and leave contrails without actually having to worry about crashing into stuff. I don't know, there's a lot of options you have when you throw a physics engine into a game with a little spaceship and decide to do stuff with it. So I like it. It's really hard, and the intention is to make it hard, but I'm not necessarily versed in enough super, like, hardcore, insane games like this to say what exactly it is, because a lot of them are very different. I remember there's that game, it's like the impossible game where you have to like do clutch timing on things like jumping with your character so that they don't fall into the abyss and die. There's certainly something to be said for those type of games that are very fun, if maddening, that takes me back to like the Flappy Jam and the Flappy Bird game that everyone went nuts over for a little while. And then it got taken down because supposedly the creator was being threatened, like with physical harm in his home country. But now he's got a new game out, so good for that guy. So either way, like, I feel like the main thing that just needs help is the controls. Maybe clean those up a bit so they feel less floaty and wibbly wobbly, or maybe just make them feel like they have just that little bit more polish where the wibble wobble feels intentional, and you can kind of figure out what your control scheme is like. Otherwise, I like the kind of faux CRT pixel graphics. I like the concept. And just kind of see about expanding from there. And I think you could make the next maddening, crazy game that drives everybody insane at night. All right, last And certainly not the least of our wonderful indie compatriots, for today we have Solitary Freedom, which is a game about a cute little slime monster that is floating within the remains of a once beautiful and heavenly world that is now just floating through space as just a husk of its former self. And this is another one of those physics-based kind of puzzler games. It's a really short one, where we're just using our momentum in order to propel us through this little chamber. It looks like it's a flat chamber where we're on the floor, and then we have to platform our way up to the exit there in that little notch at the top. But this one is actually where we're a slime monster that once we get going, we can only stop if we hit something. And that means that we can kind of run into these barrels that contain like rotting material that makes up food, or we can kind of like jump through these spikes, which will actually kill us. And we're basically just trying to figure out what direction we need to go in this game in order to escape without dying. And it can be a little bit tricky to figure that out. The first level is actually kind of easy, and after that, things start to heat up a little bit to the point where they're a little bit spicy and somewhat difficult. So here we have the exit, like, over here. And you might not have noticed in this game, but we can only move so much before we run out of energy or food, and we will actually starve to death on the spot. So we need to kind of time our movements so that they can coincide with not being murdered by anything, like these spines, or we want to try and coincide them so that they hit one of these barrels that is full of food. But you gotta be careful how you hit these barrels because they might end up getting you murdered. Because as I hit this barrel, it's going to knock me down into those spines and those are going to kill me. But conveniently, I've already mostly played through this game. Well, I played through all 3 of the levels, so I guess I have. So I already kind of know what I'm doing, but it does require a little bit of timing and finesse. And for what it is, and for as much of clutch maneuvering as you have to do in this game, but you can actually figure it out after a while, I kind of like it. Like, this is an interesting take on how to do a momentum-based kind of physics puzzler, where you're just trying to control the speed at which your character is going. So in this case, I'm just trying to time this last barrel move. As I roll into that barrel, it's going to deflect me down onto that single pillar that I need to hit in order to get out the exit. But I have to look and watch the timing of the spines in order to figure out when I should go so that I don't get smacked. And I'm just about getting it. Like, I gotta leave the barrel or the ceiling and hit the barrel just as the spike is going down and, like, about to come back up. So here we go, just like that, and we're out. Just like that, lickety-split. And yeah, that's the whole kit and caboodle, the whole spit and shebang. And now I have to get up this one here. This is the tricky one, because these spikes down here do not always play fair. And there you can actually see that I ran out of food up here, and I ended up dying. Now, I think my main feedback for this would be, I'd love to see more, because there's only 3 levels in this game, and I understand that this is a compo entry, so you only had 48 hours to build this. But I'd love to see some more, because this is compelling. I like where this is going, and maybe as you explore through this dark and sinister dungeon of a game, maybe you can find out exactly what happened to the people that used to live here that led to their utopian society, like getting destroyed and murdered. That's a compelling piece of story here. The other thing is, I like the graphics. I wouldn't mind if those were, you know, polished up and, like, added some detail, but if you just, you know, shipped it as is with more stuff, I think that would be pretty good. Maybe add, like, up near that little hunger bar up here, you could add a little, like, icon that can indicate what that is, because at first I wasn't really sure why I was dying, and then I noticed that there was that bar up there that kept going down, and that must have been food, because it looked like I was eating something as I hit these barrels. Beyond that, I mean, I don't have a lot of feedback. I'd love to see this with other, like, creatures that are in here, because I can't be the only slime beast. that's hungry for escape and freedom. There's got to be other beasts in here that have evolved through the horror and leftovers of this floating world that are hungering for not just freedom, but also your flesh. And then maybe there's like some magic leftovers, like maybe the fabric of reality inside of this ruins is decaying over time, and like rips of magic open up and come after you. You got a lot of options here, and I hope you explore a few of them and do the stuff with the things. And I think I might have just escaped here. Unless I jacked this up. I might have jacked this up. Yeah, I jacked this up. What was I supposed to do here? I was go up and around, down here, down here. But then I get up into here and I start to starve. So maybe I'm not supposed to... I'm not supposed to eat this barrel. Maybe I need that barrel for later. Or wait, maybe... Oh, I get hung... So I could just go up here and around to get out this little hole, but then I starve to death before I reach it. I see. You sneaky devil, you. So I did get about this far before, but now I can't remember how I got out all the way. Although, conveniently, the creator of this game, CMLSC, was nice enough to create some hints that will show you what you need to do, because it can be a little bit tormenting. But you gotta be careful, because you've been taken to Flavor Town and things are dangerous. Let's see here. I need this, and then I gotta immediately hit over. Okay, let's try that. Come on, Larry, you can do it. I believe in me. There we go. And then we go up, and you can basically just sit here and think about what your next move will be. Because, I mean, you don't get hungry until you start to move around. Yeah, that's where I starve to death, so maybe I'm going the wrong direction. Let's go up here, up, over, hit here. Dang it, I almost got through again. Well, basically, you guys get the idea. And I like the concept of this game, and I hope you expand it, because this is definitely a genre. There's a lot of entries into the momentum-based physics puzzler. And I think there's always room for more people, because it's really about setting a theme with your world and building the puzzles and the mechanics around that. So, very nice job, everybody. I've really enjoyed these games so far. And I hope you keep trying to build them out into something that you're proud of and that you'll want to put way up on the top of your portfolio. Because that's, in a small part, in a small sense, is the idea behind Ludum Dare, is you build stuff and eventually you get to the point where you're competent enough or happy enough with what you're making and you can send it off to market. So that'll be it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I've been your host, Larry. I hope you've enjoyed these so far. I don't really have any other notes for the end of this one. I hope everyone's enjoying playing and rating the game so far. And I'll catch you next time. Have a good one, everybody, and toodaloo, fruitaloos.